Good morning, good morning. I thought I had to get up because I had like some type of inspection, but as usual, I'll get my dates mixed up. So I always yarn when I cut this camera on, always. I hate this little dent this stocking cap leave in my forehead. I don't like that. I'm gonna have to go back to my wrap caps because this shit is actually sore. Look at this shit, it's crazy. So it's story time. I was actually thinking of like, okay, so what could I actually talk about? That's what I was thinking. Like, what could I actually talk about? I got a good one though. It's like doing this makes me think about my crazy ass my crazy ass life. Thinking of all these, like when I be like, okay, I'ma tell a story every day. It made me think about all the crazy ass things I went through. Like, damn, I remember that. So this story is about, I'm gonna try to hurry up because you know I don't like my videos to be over 20 minutes. So this one is about, I had this friend. He had been my friend for like ever. And he wanted to get with me after I got sick. So, you know, we was together, but he was a little bit of a mama's boy. So, you know, that was kind of the reason why we had broke up, because he told me that to go find somebody that's looking for the same thing that I want. And a guy should never tell me that, because you tell me some shit like that, I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to find that guy that's looking for what I'm looking for. And that's what I did. Like, in a couple of months, I was talking to another dude. And I didn't know this guy that long. You know, I can't remember when we met, but I think we met in like, I want to say October. And I think we end up living together like by the next August, right? But you think you know somebody. And you don't know a person until you live with them. Then that's when you start seeing their real true colors, is when y'all live together. That's why I don't like living with any of my dudes. I'd rather for us to have our separate places, because when you live together, it could just tear your relationship apart if you guys are not compatible or mature enough to talk things out. So, you know, we end up moving together in, was it September or August the 1st? It was one of those, you know. And I knew on the first night, I knew like, oh God, this is a big mistake, because we didn't know each other that long. We just both wanted to get out of our parents' house, you know what I'm saying? He was way older than me, you know. I'm sorry for yawning. He was way older than me, and he had a good job. So I was like, come on, let's do it. Why? So the first night we moved in, he didn't want to stay there because we didn't have no furniture. So, you know, the next night, I was like, I'm staying. I'm making a pallet on the floor. This is our place. I'm going to live there. I'm not staying at home. So we made a pallet I said I was going to go there. So the first night I went there, he decided to change his mind and he decided to come. So I'm there by myself, and then here he comes, and then he invites all these people. And I'm like, why are you inviting all these people? Remind you, we live two different lifestyles. I live a quiet lifestyle. He lived a party lifestyle. And that's what I had to learn when I moved with him. So we lived together. I mean, we that night he invited all these people over. That's when I knew, I was like, I think I made a big, gigantic mistake by moving in with this dude. So the first 3 months, no, we had to move in September because he ended up going to jail in October. Right, we had the fucking domestic violence a month later. So a month later, he invited this girl over, And I guess he invited everybody over. He was the type of guy where he had female and male friends. So he was cool with everybody, you know. So he invited this girl over, you know what I'm saying? And it was some tricky stuff involved, but it just was not happening, not on my end. So he made some really rude comments like, take your ass upstairs and I bet you my shit worked. He was talking about his dick because his dick wouldn't get hard, but you'll find out why later. So he ended up taking a girl outside and fucking her right in front of the apartment. And I was like, my neighbor told me, and I was like, God, like, why would you do that? Why, why would you do that? So one day, this was about a couple of days later, he gave me some flowers. I think I hit him in the head with the flowers and threw the flowers in the street. And then, like, about a week later, he was on the phone with another girl. And I came in the living room. And he's telling this girl, oh, she gonna get the fuck out. And I'm thinking, like, how I'm gonna get the fuck out? But it's my name on this lease, just like yours on there. So we got into a real bad argument. And I think he spit in my face. No, he got up and I pushed him. And then when I pushed him, he spit in my face. So when he spit in my face, I instantly spit back. And then he just jumped up and was like, pow, and just like knocked my ass out. And I was like, I just seen black, right? I just seen complete black. And I remember waking up like, I'm about to fuck this motherfucker up. But when I got up, I did like this, and it was like just a handful of blood. And I'm like, what the fuck? Did he knock out my teeth or something? But what he had did was he hit me so hard till this tooth busted my whole lip up in here. So I was like, bitch, you better run. So this nigga got the fuck up out the house, and I called 911. It was blood everywhere. So he left. I came back later that night and I changed the locks on the door. It didn't matter anyway because his name was on the lease, so they was gonna let him back in. But I didn't know none of this because this was my first time ever living with a guy. So when I came back, I spent the night over somebody's house that night because he ran. They took me to emergency. They kept saying, man, what did he hit you with? I just thought he just like slapped me, but I think he punched me and busted my whole lip. And they kept, but my whole face, what I didn't know, my whole face was bloody. I guess that's why I kept saying, what did he hit you with? My whole face was bloody. So I don't know how I got that way, but it did. So when I got to emergency and I really seen my face, I was like, oh my God. I was like, he gonna pay for this shit right here. So the next day, I went home and I went to I had my friend go with me and I pushed the door, and then he had kicked in the door. He kicked in the door. The door was already open. And I was like, okay, I'm not going in there. I'm calling the police. So I went across to my neighbor's house and I told her, I said, can I just stay over here for a minute while I call the police to escort me into my house? So I called the police, and while I'm waiting there for the police, here he comes. He pulls up with the girl, dropping him off in front of the house. Like nothing ever happened. He hopped out the girl car, went in the house like nothing was ever wrong. Soon as the girl pulled off, the police pulled up. Police pulled up. I walked right back across. They pulled him outside. He was taking a shower. They set him down on the porch, and they was like, they ran his name. He was already on probation, but he had a warrant out. So he was sitting on the porch looking all pitiful like a sad puppy. Like, you know, why would you call the police on me? Why would you hit me? Bitch, you didn't think I was going to call the police on you? Bitch, I can't fuck you up physically, but I will get your ass through the motherfucking law. So, make a long story short, he ended up going to jail for 3 months. That was the most peacefulest 3 months of our life. Because like I said, we moved in September. And from September all the way to October when he went to jail. No, we moved in August. From August to October when he went to jail was nothing but chaos every day, all day. Now me, I'm thinking this dude got a drinking problem, because that's every time I woke up he had Milwaukee's Best Ice. Cheapest fucking beer that gives a nigga diarrhea like crazy. So I'm thinking, oh my God. every day. So when he left for them 3 months, them was the best fucking 3 months of my life. I swear to God. When he got out in, I want to say February, I was like, you know, of course they give you that jail talk, because he violated his probation when he did that. Of course, you know, they give you this jail talk, you know, oh, when I get out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He lost his job, so I was paying all the bills. So he gets out, and I'm thinking, like, maybe he's going to change. It got worse. It got a lot worse. So there was, like, a lot of fights. Like, I can't even sit up here and tell you the stories of all the fights that we had. It was just a lot of fights. Police was known for coming to my house because we fought so much. And this one time, I was going to stab him. I had a knife in my hand. I had made up in my mind, I'm going to stab this bitch. At first, I said I was going to stab him like in his side, but then I was like, no, I might hit the intestines and he might go into shock, or I might hit an artery, he might bleed out, and then I'm going to go to jail for murder. So in my head, I was like, I'm going to stab this bitch in his leg. I'm going to stab him in his leg. And I called the 911 people and I told them that I was going to stab him. And I was serious. I was dead serious. Like, so we get outside and we start fighting, and I broke that knife out, and he swung on me, but he missed because I ducked, and I went to stab, and I slipped because we was fighting on ice in the street. So he must have seen the police and tried to dip off and run, but I was like, nah, bitch, you ain't going nowhere. I was chasing after him, running after him with that knife, like, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna stick you. So he tried to run and hide behind the car because I didn't know the police was running behind us. So he tried to go under the car. When I seen the police, I'm like, he's under the car with a big ass knife in my hand. And so the police took the knife from me and told me to go back home, and they pulled him from under the car and they arrested him, you know what I'm saying? And he was high. And he went to jail again. This time when he went to jail, his boy tried to holler at me. So his boy told me, he said, he be cool, but when he get on that powder, he turn crazy. And I'm like, you've been around me all this time, and you never told me that this nigga was getting high off cocaine? I'm thinking this nigga got an alcohol problem. He drink alcohol, he drink liquor. This nigga had an alcohol problem, a cocaine problem. He had two. And I'm like, when he said that, it started putting the pieces together. Like, that's where all his money was going. You know, like, and all them days of staying up for 3 days, that's what he was doing. Somehow like 8 bars. I didn't know about 8 bars, but he would always get like 2 and 3 8 bars and just do it the whole weekend. And I was thinking, like, alcohol make you stay up like this? Alcohol make you act crazy? Like this nigga go nuts when he drink motherfucking liquor. That's what I was thinking in my head. But after his boy told me that he be getting high off powder, I was like, oh, wow. So he served time in that jail, and the police whooped his ass that time. They whooped his ass so bad, they busted his eye, and he had to get stitches, and they just like did a slop job on fixing it up. So when he came back, I was like emotionally tired. I was emotionally tired because I'm like, it had been like a year and a half now of all this fighting and this drug use and drinking. And so I had made it a ritual, because he did work off and on jobs when he could, and do Monday through Thursday, he would not do anything. He would work, come home, he cook, we would eat at the table, and we would go to sleep Monday through Thursday. But soon as Friday hit and he got that paycheck, I made sure that I got my kid up out of that house, because I didn't want him to be subjected to nothing that went on after Friday. So I would take my kid to his grandmother's house, you know, so we was never there on the weekend. And that's sad, because this is your home and you can't even be here on the weekend. But he never seen nothing that went on, because I always took him out the house on Friday. So sometimes, I think maybe 1 or 2 times he was there. So like after a year and a half, I started praying because I didn't know how to get rid of him. Like, he kept saying, you leave, you leave. And I'm like, you can't even pay the bills. You're going to fuck up both our names if I leave. How you going to pay the bills? You don't have no steady job. You know what I'm saying? So I was praying. I was leaving prayer letters to God under the bed. Like, Lord, free me from this situation. I need to get out. I don't know how to get out. If I leave, I'm going to. It got so bad where I had moved all my furniture out the house because he just started breaking everything. He would get high and break everything. Cut cords, the radios, knock TVs over. He was just crazy. So, me praying, in the midst of my praying, because I needed to get out, but I didn't know how to get out. I got approved for Section 8 by 2 places. And I was like, so I took one of the places. By me taking one of the places, he had to sign his name off the lease. And that was one of the big problems, because when the police came, every time they was called, they would say, well, both of your names is on the lease, so one of y'all would have to leave. So it would always be me leaving. I would always leave. Ain't no telling how many girls he had up in there. So he would leave. And, oh, let me tell you this one situation. So I had a neon, right? And I'm trying to speed this story up, but it's just so long. Like, I had this neon. So one day I'm asleep because he was on that fuck shit. It was the weekend. I'm asleep. And I hear this girl come over. So I look out the window and I'm like, so I come downstairs and he tell me this is his friend from so and so and so and so. And I'm looking like, this girl is so ugly. Like, she had bangs and her bangs was curled. Like, she curled them with them sponge rollers. And I'm like, where did he get this girl from? Fucking 1988 somewhere? Like, who wear bangs like that? Don't nobody even wear bangs like that no more. I mean, she was like really ugly. Like, is this a crackhead you picked up saying you brought her in the house? You know, so I ain't think nothing of it. I was like, I'm not messing with this fuckery. I took my ass to bed. Next thing I know, I hear the door close. And I'm like, what the fuck? I jump up. This motherfucker took the keys to my car and bounced in my car with old girl and left. I was like, are you fucking serious? You just stole my car for this bitch. So I called another friend to come get me. You know what I'm saying? This was on a Friday, of course. My friend came and got me. I stayed with him for the weekend. And Monday when I came back home, my car still wasn't there. So I'm sitting there on the couch and I see this tow truck pull up. He blew the engine to my car because I had an oil leak in my car and I always had to put oil in it. And he was just driving my shit around and never put no oil in it. So he blew the whole engine. Had that car for 10 years. It was brand new when I got it. He just fucked it up. So after that, I was like exhausted. So when I got to Section 8 and all of it went through, it took time for it to go through. He had to sign his name off the lease. So that meant no more, when the police come, you gotta leave. So I instantly started thinking, when we did the lease over, we did the lease over in April. So I was like, okay. One day he went out and he was only out for like an hour, and then he called me, and when he called me, he was making all these threats. And I'm like, he's definitely high. And I was like, he's high with something else, because I could tell when he just did cocaine. I could tell when he did cocaine and beer. I could tell when he did cocaine and liquor. When he did cocaine and liquor, it was bad. He was a totally whole different person. So that night, I took the lock off my closet door, because I used to lock my closet door because he used to steal shit. So I took the lock off my closet door and I put it on the downstairs door. So he can't kick the door in this time. He kicked the door in this time. It's going to be different because my name is on the lease and his name isn't. So I took the doorknob and I put the doorknob on the downstairs door. And like 2 o'clock in the morning, he came and I heard him. So I jumped up. And he was trying to unlock the door. And I was like, he about to try to get in. I was like, when he figure out he can't get in, he go kick in the door. So eventually he couldn't get it in. Very predictable. What did he do? He kicked in the door. When he kicked in the door, I was like, why the fuck did you just kick in the door? He was like, bitch, why the fuck would you change the fucking locks? I said, bitch, because I wanted to. He was like, bitch, you about to die. So I ran upstairs and I had to run upstairs and grab my cell phone. So I ran upstairs. He ran upstairs behind me. He wasn't as fast as me because he was high off liquor and cocaine. So he must have thought he would. He was pretty fast though. So I had to get to my phone on the dresser. So I just wanted to grab my phone. So he was standing at the door and he was putting on these gloves. He was like, bitch, I'm about to kill you today. You about to die today. So I'm standing across the bed. He's standing on the other side of the bed. So I don't know what popped in my head, but some just said, rush this nigga. Don't think about it. Just rush this nigga because he gonna lose his balance. So he never even seen it coming. I just took off and just rushed into him and just, because I'm kind of stalky, you know. I'm not a skinny chick. I'm not a skinny chick, but I'm not a thick chick. But I got a lot of weight. I'm solid. So he was tall and skinny. So I just rushed him. And he went falling into the closet. And when he fell into the closet, I ran out the door. I didn't have on nothing but one t-shirt, just like this. No panties, no socks, no nothing. I just slept in t-shirt and that's it. So I'm running down. Once I pushed him into the closet, I ran straight outside to the door. I ran around the block, butt ass naked, and I called 911. No, I ran down to where it was, and I hid behind some bushes. And I called 911. And then after that, when I got by the bushes, I just heard glass breaking. Psh, psh, psh. This clown got a metal bat and bust out all of the windows in my apartment, all the windows in the next apartment, and it was a white guy in the third apartment. And by the time he got to his apartment, I guess he was gonna bust his windows out too. But the white guy came out like, dude, what the fuck is your problem? And I guess he just dropped the bat and took off running. So then that's when the police came. So they had the dogs looking for him. Like he had just created. The lady next door, he scared her so bad. When he bust out her windows, he said, bitch, call the police. Broke out all her windows. She moved after that. She left. I think she was gone like the next week. She did not stay there. So he left. He went around. He was messing with some girl in an apartment complex. They had the dogs. So every apartment that he went to, the dogs picked up on his scent and went to these different apartments that he tried. It was only 2 people he tried to go to, but the dogs led the police dogs led them to this apartment because he had a blood trail because he was bleeding from busting out all the windows. So the dogs followed him, and the police searched their apartments to make sure that he wasn't in there, because you could see the blood trail leading to the apartments, and then it just disappeared. He must have just started walking in grass to the girl who lived like way down by the other end. So they couldn't find him, but he was charged with malicious destruction of property for over $2,000. He was charged with domestic violence for the second time. He was charged with home invasion, violation of a PPO. He was charged with so much stuff. Oh my God, he was charged with, it was at least 5 things. So he could never come back out to that apartment ever again. So I was finally free. I was free. And that's when we broke up and we went our separate ways. But I never had really no contact with him after that. You know, we just both, you know, we went our separate ways. I stayed there for 12 years at that apartment. I stayed there for 12 years. But the first 1.5 years was absolutely horrible. But prayer works, believe that. So, you know, I'm going to say about maybe 4 or 5 years later, he had ended up getting with another girl. And he had he had been popping up at my house like for the last week before this other situation happened. And it was like we was cool. So we both had our own situation. So I wasn't really tripping anymore, that he would pop up, because he didn't live with me. They lived together. He told me they were getting married and everything, but he did not like her because guess what? She was a powder head. And all she did was stay up all night. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the same thing you did. No, you don't like it, but this is what I had to go through. So, he was telling me how she was copping from his boy and he didn't feel like that was right and all this other crazy stuff. So he was sitting with me one night, just talking about, venting about her and how she's ready to get married and he didn't want to marry her. He was cool. He wasn't on anything. And then he left. So he was telling me he was staying with his boy down the street. So the next day, he came over. One of my girls came over. He was like, why don't y'all come down here? You and your girl, why don't y'all come down here so we can all have a drink or something, And me and my girl, we got in his boy car and we went down there, you know what I'm saying? And we had a drink, but I don't know, something sparked between him and my girl. And they got into a real bad argument. And I was like, she got up and she left. And she started walking to my apartment where her car was parked. And I feel like if we come together, we leave together. That's how I always feel. I wasn't going to let her leave, by herself at 3 o'clock in the morning, walking down the street. So I was like, I got to go. Too. She leave, I got to go. So me and her started walking. And she was like, he crazy. I was like, yeah, I know. So, we ended up walking home together, but before we walked home, they were still getting into an argument. And I did not want her to argue with him because I knew what he was capable of. He's violent. He hit a woman in a minute. He didn't care. So I didn't want him to hit her. So they was arguing back and forth, and he was about to run up on her, and I had to stop him. I'm like, look, this is not what you want to do, because you still got some shit open out here. You do some shit, you go really get in trouble. Just go back in the house and let us walk home. I tried to kill the peace, you know what I'm saying? So he was like, okay. He was cool. He walked back in the house, and me and her, we walked home at like 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? It was only like, we didn't live that far, maybe like 15 minutes. So we walked home, or 10 minutes. So we walked home. I might have to end my story. So we walked home, and she was talking about him like a dog or whatever. So he left. She left and she went home. So he ended up coming back to my house. You could figure out what that went. So the next day, when it was time for him to go home, I remember this is like 3 or 4 years after we broke up. We're just friends now. We know no romantic stuff or anything. He got a girlfriend and everything. So I walked him back down to his boy house. Like, I walked him halfway. And, I gave him a hug. I was like, see you, big head. Stay out of trouble. And I hugged him. And I got this real funny feeling. And so when I was walking back to the house, I walked him halfway and I was walking back. I turned around and I looked at him. And I got this real eerie feeling. Like a feeling, it's a feeling I never felt before. Yeah, a chill feeling, like a chill feeling. I don't know, it just wasn't right. It was like I wasn't gonna never see him no more again. And I didn't know what to think when I felt that feeling. I just remember just looking at him walking away, and he smiled and I smiled back. And then after a couple of days, I was like, wow, I ain't hear from him no more or something. Maybe he made up with his girl. Then a police officer knocked on my door and said, you got to come to court. And I'm like, I got to go to court for what? I got to go to court. So I had to dig in my Yahoo email and dig up some pictures, and I found out like where the pictures came from, this number. So I called this number, and it was his girlfriend. I knew it was his girlfriend. I knew it was her. I called her on purpose because I'm like, why would I get this letter saying that I gotta go to court? for some shit that happened like 4 years ago. So I called her to ask her, has she heard from him, or did she know where he was? And she said, yeah, he tried to kill me. He shot at me through a window. He in jail for murder, for attempted murder. I'm like, what? Are you serious? So that day that he left me, he stole his boy's gun, went to her house, and he tried to kill her. And the police got him, and he went to jail. It was kind of a conflict of interest in the case, because the police officer that was called to the case or to investigate the case was messing around with her. So it kind of messed up their whole trial of attempted murder, because you can't have a police that you're fucking with do a case. So only thing he got charged for was the gun charge. So he had to serve, like, I want to say 5 years for that straight. And they wanted me to testify, which made him a habitual domestic abuse person. But I was like, I called y'all when I needed help. I feel like I don't want to be a part of this. Like, it's 3 years later. He didn't ever bother me after that happened. He never stalked me or bothered me. So why should I have to press charges for some shit that happened 3 years ago that y'all didn't even take care of? Now y'all got another domestic charge. Y'all want to add me to it. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. So I didn't do it. So he got sentenced. And after he got sentenced, that was it. Never had any more contact with him after that. He got out, and I had a baby and everything. He had got out, and we were cool. We always stay cool. Like, we're cool to this day. Like, I'll say hi to him. I don't talk to him that much, but I'll say hey to him, and he'll say hey back. And yeah, that was it. That was my first experience in living with a guy, and it was absolutely horrible. So it kind of put a damper on me in living with people. You just can't jump up and live with everybody. You really need to know them, really, especially if you have kids and you took your kids around. When he was not getting high, he was a very family-oriented person. But when he got high, he turned into Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. But that was the first person I had to pray him away. If ever you tired, start praying. Prayer works. In the midst of my prayer, that Section 8 came through. In the midst of my prayer. And that's how I got away. So, far as women staying stuck in abusive relationships, one thing that I could not stand when I was going through all of this, I could not stand for a police officer to come and tell me to leave. Yes, I know I need to leave. I don't have the money to leave. I don't have where am I going to go? I have a house full of furniture. What am I going to do with it? Just leave it here with him and let him mess it up? My son's clothes, his bed, his whole room, his TV, his game system. I don't have money to move. And that's one thing I can't stand, when someone is in a domestic abuse situation, for people to be like, oh, just leave. It's not that easy to leave. That's why most women stay. Because if they could leave, they would. But if I could have left, I would. He did so much. He damaged so much property. I lost TVs. I lost cars. I lost stereo sets. He threw my clothes in the dumpster. I cut his shit up with a knife. I took a knife and I cut up every single pair of shorts he had. Every shirt. I took a knife and just cut everything. And folded it right back up and stuck it in the drawer. Because he threw my shit in the dumpster, and I wasn't tall enough to get it out the dumpster. So I had to go to the maintenance people and ask them, can you get my stuff out the dumpster? Like, people had dumped trash on my stuff. It was just a very horrible relationship, but it was an experience. So I learned from it. So I'm not so quick to jump up and live with people nowadays because of that right there. But one thing, when people say, get out of it, if you are not going to help them get out that situation, don't give them the advice to get out. They can't get out. Some women like to stay in that shit. I didn't. I just didn't have the funds to move. And I didn't want to mess up my credit with that apartment. And then I wouldn't be able to get an apartment. So I prayed and fought through it. But this video is 35 minutes, so I'm going to have to end it. And I'll tell y'all another crazy story tomorrow. Okay. So blessed.